Welcome to our latest Facebook Live. Today we welcome Reb Veale, who is presenting at the NLP Conference later this year. So, good morning, Reb. How are you?
Good morning. I'm really well, thanks. A bit cold, but survived Storm Christoph.
Oh, well done. One ticked off for the year then. So, Reb, as I said, you're presenting at the NLP Conference in May. Do tell us a little bit more about yourself and your presentation.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So I'm an NLP Master Trainer. I'm proud to be ANLP's ambassador for Gloucestershire. And I've been hanging around NLP for the best part of 20-something years. And I'm also an mBIT trainer and mBIT master coach. So mBIT, multiple brain integration techniques. So from the field of mBraining, co-created by Grant Suzalu, the late Grant Suzalu, and Marvin Oka, who many of you may also know has a link to Inopta. And yeah, my program is, the presentation is mSpiraling, and the subtitle is mBIT Graves and Metaprograms Walk into a Bar, ... So if you want to hear the punchline, you're going to have to come to the conference and come to the session.
I thought we were going to get it now.
Yeah, so really the background behind this presentation was that I was lucky enough to spend some time, both Mark, my husband, and myself spent some time with Grant in the few months and particularly a few weeks before he passed on. And as he always was, he was prolific in his thinking and his feeling and his passion to get truly deeply transformational, transpersonal developmental tools out into the world, into the universe. And we got talking one day, and as with Grant, if you sent him a quick one-line email, he was famous for sending a couple of pages back as his thoughts. Yeah. And similarly, a conversation over a green tea one day turned into a couple of hours conversation, which then turned into lots of emails pinging back and forth. And the one thing he asked is, please continue this research and carry it out into the world. So doing it for him and for the world, and I'm learning loads.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
There's always more to learn, isn't there?
Yeah.
So what does it, are you allowed to explain now a bit more about mSpiraling and what that means? Because my head goes spiral dynamics and all sorts of things. Is that kind of what it's about?
It absolutely is, because could have called it M Graves, but that sounds that sounds, with all due respect to Dr. Claire Graves, who originated the model. It wasn't, spiral dynamics wasn't his term for it. That was coined by Don Beck and Chris Cowan later on in their book Spiral Dynamics, which was based on Dr. Claire Graves' model. So I sort of in conjunction with Grant, coined the term mSpiraling for a few reasons. There's the nod to mBraining, and also it brings in the whole concept of Graves' work and spiral dynamics, and couldn't really fit Metaprograms in there, although there could be, that could be another M for Metaprogram there as well. And the ing, as pretty much most of the people listening will know as good NLPers who know about denominalizing, actually spiral dynamics and the whole model that it describes was never about fixed concrete stages, or certainly not types. It's about our evolving and an evolving valuing system. So that was where the name came from.
Okay, so without giving too much away, what will delegates take away from your session?
So a few of the takeaways, when this topic initially started emerging, appropriately enough, between Grant and myself. We had a set of things planned when I put in the proposal for this presentation, and was grateful for it to be accepted. And those things stand, and there might be a slightly different slant on them now, because the world's been busy changing in the past 11 months or so. Certainly we'll seek to identify some really powerful, practical, surprisingly straightforward and simple ways that participants will be able to pace and lead, meet people in their model of the world, because as we all know as NLPers, that works. I remember when I first read Shelley Rose Charvet's book, Words That Change Minds, amazing book around metaprograms like profile. And I remember how struck I was by her saying that if you want to influence people, much less lead them, you meet them at their bus stop.
Right.
And so the whole thing around first, and to quote the late great Stephen Covey as well, to understand first where people are coming from, seek first to understand, rather than, oh, you're not very, and put a label on them and preach at them, which, you know, sometimes we as NLPers might have been accused of in the past. But this year, more than anything else, has really gifted us the opportunity to practice flexibility, let's put it like that. So that's the one thing, meeting people in their model of the world with perhaps a few different lenses than we might have had a while ago, to explore clusters of behaviours, attitudes and beliefs that combine. So we may know the models of Metaprograms and the Graves double helix model, spiral dynamics, and some people may know mBraining, or may have come to previous mBIT presentations at conference in the past, or may even have done a course in it. But how do those overlay? How are they dynamically interactive? And really, how can we notice clusters, notice themes of how people communicate and come across? Discover how to work with a client's ontology. So broadly speaking, we're all works in progress. So given that that's true for our clients, given that that's certainly true for us, speaking personally, so where do we start? How do we work together? How do we lead them and or lead ourselves in a process? In a process of becoming more helpfully, resourcefully us. And that links into the last one, which is to help ourselves evolve our own ontology, to cope with an emergent, accelerating world. Now, when I first put that learning outcome, it could be accused of being very prescient, but I had no concept that the world would get quite that accelerated in an emergent way in the past 11 months. So really, more than ever before, as I'm continuing doing the research for this topic and this field, this program presentation, the more I'm realizing that it is truly, really and deeply apt for the time we are in history. And I was thinking exactly the same when I was glued to the American presidential inauguration yesterday. And you know what it's like when your reticular activating system is peaked. Suddenly you start hearing and seeing things in what people are saying and the way they're saying it. So yeah, this is a live one.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously the conference, you presented at the conference before, and of course the difference this year is we're going to be in a virtual environment, which is exciting new playgrounds for all of us, as far as conference is concerned. So how are you planning to add value within a virtual environment?
I've used the term emergent a few times. I think that might be another way of saying I'm still learning and I'm still open to this. So clearly, as we all have, I've been doing a lot more communicating and exploring working on Zoom and other virtual platforms so far over the past 11 months or so. But one of the things I'm discovering, I probably, whilst I wouldn't say I'm a technophobe, I wasn't very proactive and on the front foot towards the beginning of what's now called lockdown 1, with regard to, for example, virtual training and those sorts of things. One-to-one was fine, but actually I've been really learning how it's not the same. It is, of course, different, and it has so many potential advantages. So, for example, one of the ways I'm hoping to add more value, even more value, is through getting creative with multimedia. So the presentation will be extremely interactive. Lots of mini exercises, check-ins with yourself, with other people who are participating, hopefully, and also using video snippets and maybe theme tunes and songs. I'm not going to say any more about that, just a little teaser.
Definitely multimedia.
Yeah. Overall, the key thing in terms of adding value is because of how sharply everything is coming into focus over the past few months, this really feels like now an opportunity to put mBraining, Graves model and Metaprograms together into a real world applied focus. So at minimum, I want people to be able to go away with a couple of really practical, me and the way I work with other people, clients and organizations, tools that they can use immediately.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can we just give a shout out to Rita Hallelujah, who's
Rita,
a big heart.
Oh, huge hearts.
Lot of love.
It's National Hug Day today, so sending a huge hug out to Rita. Love you, Rita, and hugely value her amazing work.
And I think I didn't realise it was National Hug Day today, but my goodness, Reb definitely deserves the gold medal for being able to give really good hugs, as we know from previous conferences. So we'll award you that one now.
Thank you so much. It's one I'm absolutely blessed to. It's secret. I enjoy it.
Even better. So what does I mean, as I said, you know, we've had the privilege of seeing you at many past conferences. And when we first took over the conference, you were on our conference committee. So we know the in and out workings of the conference fairly intimately, I think, between us. So what does the NLP International Conference mean to you?
It's, well, there you go. There's a first embodied response, which is of course the first one and the most deeply other than conscious one. It has such a strong place in my heart, and even more so the past few years. It's always been important to me in the past few years, the sheer energy and buzz, and I see every reason why that should continue even more to another level this year, not least because people don't have to travel from home to participate and to hear and learn with and from so many amazing speakers. I am so looking forward to it. And on a practical basis, it's always the first one that goes in my forward calendar for the following year. So I know how important it is to me by the fact that my training events, any time away, do you remember when that happened, time away from home? It will again, but that all fits around the 3 days of the NLP conference. So yeah, very dear to me, hugely important, and it's a learning event as well as a social event like no other that I know.
Thank you. That's a really thank you. That's lovely to hear, and it's a really good point as well, because one of the things we did when we took over was we started publishing the dates 2 years in advance. So we've had the 2022 conference dates published for over a year now, just so that people can arrange their diaries. Well, I mean, we have to for starters.
I think that in the NLP world, people tend to plan their courses and their trainings and their attendance at CPD, etc., well in advance. So it's always been something to do. And I just wanted to pass. There's a couple of things. Ed Gray is attending. He's sent hugs to everyone there. You mentioned him earlier. Right. And I also wanted to say thank you to you and Mark for all the support you've given the conference over the years as well. It's been amazing.
You're so welcome. It's an absolute privilege, and I don't say that as a cliche, but I mean it is a cliche and it's no less true. We get absolutely 10 times, that's an arbitrary number, but at least 10 times more out of it than we are able to give to it in support. And we're so lucky as well to be having a virtual stand this year, and it's such exciting plans for what that means, what that will look like, and how we're all going to interact on Hoover, the app. And I would just encourage people looking at the amazing program. I would encourage people, the early bird discount is still available. Please, even if you just come for one day, ideally 3 days, because it's just 3 days to energize, and it's like plugging into an energetic heart-based mainframe to energize yourself for the next year. Go and get your ticket.
That's an important point, Reb, because even if people do attend for one day, they buy a 3-day ticket, they get access to the recordings for 6 months afterwards. So you can attend for you don't even have to attend. You buy a ticket, you can watch it at your leisure, but up to 6 months after the event closes, so you get full access.
And I can't believe that this year. Count myself as so lucky, because in past years, whilst I've hugely enjoyed it always, being a stall holder or stand holder and a speaker, I have to pick and choose the sessions that I go to. Whereas this time, I've pretty much got my year's programme of CPD. I'm going to eke it out. So for 6 months, I'm going to really enjoy just reveling in all of that learning from all of those amazing speakers.
And I think that is value, because there is I think we said it's 78 hours worth of presentations altogether. And as you say, for starters, we'll be able to access all the streams over time, because we don't have Hermione Granger's time turner. So it is a case of, well, actually, you'll be able to watch all the other ones over that 6 months. And 6 months is a lovely, decent space of time to be able to pace yourself to get those 78 hours in. Because I know sometimes you get a week or 2 weeks. I mean, that's 78 hours in a week is a very full-on job. Take a week off. And don't sleep either. So it is that opportunity that Hoover provides us with to have that access to such a long length of time afterwards, as long as we remember to press record on all the presentations. There's all sorts of interesting technicalities we're getting to grips with.
Nick Fratias sends hugs to all as well.
Thank you so much, Nick.
Do
we have any questions for our Facebook Live?
Just a lot of love. No questions yet. People will have the opportunity to post their searing questions after the event.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So if you keep an eye on it afterwards, then that's what presenters often do, is they'll go in and ask questions afterwards. And so I think if there are no specific questions, then thank you so much for being with us this morning. It's been a delight to see you, and I'm so looking forward to your session, which is on the Sunday, the 16th of May at 10 a.m. That's 10 a.m. BST, because it will be summer by then, thank goodness. So yeah, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to your session on mSpiraling. So thank you, Reb, and
thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah, thank you both so much as well. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.